CFB Paint back again, off-season episode 3, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Hodgepodge today. We're kind of all over the place. I didn't even talk to you about this before we pushed record, but did you have any draft talk? Just I am totally putting you on the spot, but
Dude, no, I actually have some opinions on this stuff, which is kind of interesting.
Okay, fire away.
The Shedeur Sanders thing is crazy to me because, watching him and stuff like that, he's got the arm talent, he's got the whatever else. He does have a tendency to hold the ball and try and get his players to open up a little bit. But 32 teams having a decisive such a issue with him, and everybody else saying that it's a non-issue, either is a red flag for the NFL, saying you guys are colluding on something and trying to push a narrative against him and Dion, or you guys were all privy to something that the rest of the country just didn't think that was that big a deal. And I don't know which one is it. You can hear people's side. I think Chris Carter's oh, Shedeur Sanders shot himself in the foot by being so rash and brash, and Dion's oh, I'm going to go be his coach in the NFL, and I think there's a concern that he wasn't under anybody but his dad and stuff like that. But at the same time, he worked with former NFL coaches and had former NFL mentors in who's the offensive coordinator for
Pat Shurmur?
Yeah, Pat Shurmur, and then even you got Tom Brady. So that blows my mind, the whole circumstances around that. Now, if he dropped to day 2 or day 3, it's all right, we had a second round grade on him. But the fact that nobody decided to pull the trigger until the 5th round, and you picked up, some of the quarterbacks that I have no idea what you're thinking with on picking up over him. I don't know. So someone either got to steal the draft, or this kid's going to be a locker room cancer, and the NFL has something clearly that they know about that we don't, if they're not collusion.
I listened to, oh goodness, I can't even remember who it was now who said this, which to me made the most sense, right? Okay, so there was reportedly from the Sanders camp, they didn't meet with every team, right? So they only met with a handful of teams. And so already you've sort of cut down your options, right, to a small portion of them. And if you didn't show up to those as prepared as you might want to be, if they rate someone above you and they take someone, then well, who's going to pick you? So I feel I don't know if I go heavy on the collusion side. I don't know if I go heavy on they didn't necessarily want to deal with the potential media circus. I think it was more based on some of my reading there. It was all right, we just, you sort of artificially limited the pool of interested teams by being a little selective in how you went through the process. And when you didn't come out on top in any of those teams' boards, that seems like a really risky move. So, yeah, you're right. I think either the Browns get a steal, or this becomes something that we all it becomes a trivia question for 10 years from now.
But let's talk about the Browns. Do you really think the Browns, who had a chance to meet with him and met with him, and Dylan Gabriel, really had Dylan Gabriel rated that much higher than they had Shedeur? I'll be honest, I watched Dylan Gabriel. I don't think he's that much better. I don't think he's better, to be frank. I don't think he has as much arm talent.
I don't either. I agree with you on that. I would say, have you looked at the GM and the head coach when the pick is announced? They didn't really have poker faces. I think they hated it. I think they had it clearly picked the other way. And there's a lot of speculation on Twitter that was yeah, the owner said, go get me Shedeur. Because I think in their first 5 picks, didn't they pick 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks? It's what are we doing here? So I think it's a poorly managed organization. That part is clear, but that was the thing that, they did not seem excited to have him. So again, whether or not they're right or not is to be seen. But yeah, I think he might be going into a situation where maybe the people who are in charge of cutting him from the roster or keeping him on the roster come August and September probably don't have a great, a great. They clearly didn't have a good first impression, so it'll be on him to change that. So we'll see.
All that aside, like even I'm going to come back to the Shador thing in part, but like the selection of Graham Mertz over Quinn Ewers or over, in fact, the selection of Graham Mertz in the entire draft is baffling to me, to be frank. Like there's just some crazy stuff in that. But going back to Shador and even the prank calls and stuff like that, there were Shador prank calls, there were other prank calls.
Messed
I have
up.
to say,
Oof.
very messed up. Handled so well by Shador and Dion and team. Like Shador shrugged
Agreed.
that off. That confidence is real, and he knows what his worth is, or what he believes his worth is, and that is impressive to me. Like that, you can just take that and be like, whatever, and keep rolling with it. And you see a lot of people that shirk from the spotlight. Like when like things don't go well, it's like, oh, I'm sitting in the green room at Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, come on, pick me. But like Shador kept tweeting, he kept showing videos of himself. He's not afraid to put the video out there saying like, hey, look at me, I got pranked, and like that's a leader that I want in my room.
That part was pretty impressive. I mean, I've read a little bit more, but there was a handful of prank calls that went out, not just to him, but to some other players. So, come on, guys, this is not that hard to just keep a number secure. But I agree, man. Took that. I don't know how I would have reacted. I think I would have been so pissed. Like,
Dude,
so
even his brother, like,
salute to him.
Shiloh? Yeah, even his brother's talking about like, well, dad was representing us. I gotta go fire him and go get an agent. Like, honestly, so classy and
unfazed. Yeah.
That tells me character hardcore a little bit. Like, you know what you are, and in the midst of adversity, you're not going to change.
And you know the eyes of the nation are on you. Like that everyone's talking about this, and you don't break ranks. So that to me is pretty cool. Like we'll see if it shakes out for him. But like you're not wrong. That was a really cool show of character in a moment where it would be very easy to lose your cool. Right? Yeah. Like I would have lost mine. Like
overall, like. I'm one that will kind of somewhat bash Dion a little bit because I don't like the cockiness. I'm okay with confidence. I don't always love the cockiness, but I walked away more impressed with Dion and his kids than I have from this circumstance, from the draft, than I did initially, to be frank.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any other outside of Shador. I know that was kind of the main headline. I don't have anything, but I just figured I'd ask it. Just entered my brain right as we pushed record. So
yeah,
I audibled at the line of scrimmage. Sorry.
I think there's two other things. Ashton Genty being taken 5th, 6th overall by the Raiders. I mean, you have a 5'8" running back that's being taken that high. Everything about him screams kind of Barry Sanders, but like also it's kind of nerve wracking if you have a 5'8" running back being taken that early. The other thing I think you talk about is Travis Hunter, because like the Jaguars traded a lot to get him, but he's potentially a super steal because you're limited on the rookie contract 100%. So you're going to pay him one salary for two positions
potentially.
Like, for 4 years or 5 years because you have the player option. That's 100% a steal. Like that's exactly what I would do, and I think it's a great option to go get him. If you can control that, if he pans out as a wide receiver and quarterback, he will become the highest paid player ever because you have to pay him for two positions.
Yeah, I wonder how that works with the union agreements. So
if I'm him, I'm like, listen, I'm playing for you for two. You don't want to pay me for two? Fine. Pay me for 1 3/4. Pay me for 1.5. I'm still making more than everybody else.
Yeah, it fascinating to see what happens there because there are like ranges for certain positions, and obviously defensive back and wide receiver are among the higher ones. Again, wide receiver being higher than defensive back, but yeah. Fascinating down the line to track and see where that goes if he plays full time. I can't imagine he plays full time in the NFL on both sides of the ball. But probably plays and I'm not saying he can't. I'm just curious to see if they will let him.
It's a much more violent game, but it's significantly less snaps than you probably play in your Colorado.
True.
You're playing probably 70, 80 at most.
Yeah, and he was pulling 110, 115 a lot in college. Yeah. So that's a good point. All right. Awesome. Okay. Other things. Let's maybe go through the agenda for the day as I derailed the
Yeah, we're
first
good.
however many minutes of the pod to start. All right. What we're going to go over today: G5 playoff contenders that have potential to make noise in the playoff in 2025. I guess 2026 as well. Another hypothetical like peak off-season discussion. You're a high prized, highly touted recruit. The NIL deal's the same everywhere. Where are you going and why?
Mhm.
Um, and then we'll talk about kind of a sort of where are they now, or just kind of checking in on some of our favorites of the sport from yesteryear, coaches, players. I say favorites. Like I'm looking at my list, and none of these guys were necessarily my favorites, but like there are people that that were in the sport that were talked about, and wanted to just kind of check in on those. And then finally, does Chat GPT know ball? We're going to ask Chat GPT a few questions, review some questions that we submitted already, and just kind of figure out what AI has in terms of ball knowledge. We'll test it today. I figure we go in that order.
Good.
G5, who you got?
All right, I feel like this is limited to a few different teams. I mean, you've got
I think so
Boise
too.
State, you've got Tulane, you've got James Madison, Navy, UNLV, a couple of those people. I'm going to focus on three of them. I'm going to focus on UNLV. I'm going to focus on Navy. I'm going to focus on Boise State. The reason I'm not talking Tulane is that in order to be a playoff contender, you have to be the highest ranked champion of your conference. Well, Tulane has the hardest schedule. They play Duke and Ole Miss. Um, and I think you also play Notre Dame. Oh, no, you don't play Notre Dame. You play Duke and Ole Miss. And you don't know who's going to play quarterback. I mean, TJ Finley just announced he's transferring in the portal 3 days ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that Tulane has a harder schedule and has much more losses built into their schedule, and so therefore will not be as highly ranked. So I'm going to go focus on Boise State, Navy, UNLV. Let's focus on UNLV first. Dan Mullen is the coach. With the offensive genius of Dan Mullen, you never really know what can happen with the team. I mean, you can have Mississippi State be ranked number one in the nation. Like, let's be frank. Like, whoever saw that happening, and UNLV will have the tools to do that. They recently had a defensive coordinator resign, but the person that's stepping in has had NFL experience, so like they'll be fine from that perspective. It's going to be a late install, right? Because it's right before spring or right during spring, but they'll be okay. They'll be a competitor in the Mountain West. Boise State, I also really like. If I'm picking someone out of the Mountain West, I'm probably picking Boise State. You have to replace Ashton Ginty. You have to replace a lot of your defensive line, which was absolutely amazing last year. But you get Madsen Maddox, who I'm a lot bigger on, I think, than most people are, or a lot higher on him than most people are. He threw 6 interceptions all year, and 3 of those were in the Penn State game. If he doesn't have his worst game, they probably beat Penn State in that game. To be frank, I mean, it was what 31-14, I think. But you also you get the transfer Malik Sherrod from Fresno State, and you have a fairly manageable-ish schedule. This is where that's what's going to put Boise State in jeopardy. You play Notre Dame, you play USF, you play Air Force, which lost its first 7 games last year, but started to put things together and won their last 4. And they were a young team, and they're still going to get better. You play Notre Dame and you play UNLV, so it's going to be hard to be higher ranked. But if they can win their championship, they have a chance. But my pick of who makes the playoff, I'm going Navy. Why last year you played Tulane? You lost to Tulane, Notre Dame. You lost to Rice. Rice was a kind of a fluky game, but you got blown out in. But you wouldn't expect it. The reason why you don't play Notre Dame this year, you return Blake Horvath, who's the quarterback, right?
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, you return Alex Texka and Eli, I don't know, Heidenreich, the top other 2 running backs that were on the team. So basically, your 3 main ball carriers are all back. You return a bunch of your offensive line, and your schedule gets significantly easier. You do play Memphis. I'm trying to list out who I think is hard on their schedule. But you play Memphis, USF, Army, and Air Force. You have Army use the rifle, and Air Force is kind of up and coming. Memphis and USF are probably your 2 hardest games outside of those other 2.
I do show them playing at Notre Dame.
Do you have them at Notre Dame? Maybe I missed that. I went through and checked it.
Am I in the right year? Let me double check this.
I thought I checked it
Yeah,
twice, but maybe I'm wrong.
looks like they are.
Uh, so that may put them back behind. But if they can, let's see, what time? When do you have them playing Notre Dame?
November 8th. It looks like.
Oh, yep, I definitely see it. Yep. So maybe that puts them back behind the ball. But if you can have this team, the one problem about this team is they're not going to outscore people a ton, and so it's going to be you have to not make mistakes. You have to do what you can. But if you have you and Boise State playing Notre Dame, maybe it's a de facto doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's keep the score similar, right? Like you can't lose by 30 and have have Boise State play a nail biter with them or something like that.
Yeah, as long as you have the wins too. But you do have other than that, you have an easier schedule, right? You don't play a UNLV, you don't play a an Air Force potentially, or even what's the other teams that I said that I had them all listed out. Yeah, I can't think of it all. Yeah, in USF, you both play USF, so I think there's some good comparisons between those two teams. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be between Navy and Boise State. I'm gonna go Navy and see what happens.
that would be awesome. Yeah, I want to see it. They crumbled against Notre Dame last go around. I think if you were to ask them, they'd say like, we actually we belonged in that game a lot more than we
Well,
really allowed ourselves, because
weren't there
like how many
7
times did they?
turnovers in that game?
Yeah, I think they put the ball on the ground like 3 or 4 times, threw a couple of interceptions. Like it just like the wheels came off. So to me, it's almost like, all right, you had a bad game. I'm not saying that that's 100% who you are. So that's an interesting one. Navy. I really couldn't get beyond Boise State, frankly. Like I considered some of these other teams. Tulane, I just like, yeah, who's playing quarterback? I think that's a good coaching staff, but I mean, I've just got questions about their ability to keep talent. They've kind of lost some notable players. I love that they're playing Duke. I think in the first game of the season with their former quarterback Mensa is the starting QB at Duke. That's a rough one, but I come back to Boise State. Here's what I wanted to call out: two of your top three receivers return, including Matt Lauder, the tight end, Latrell Caples. Austin Bolt also got good run. He wasn't one of those top ones. They did lose a couple guys to the transfer portal, a couple guys going pro. I need to do a little bit more research on their offensive line. They look kind of upperclassmen that have been there for the most part their entire career. So it is sort of program guys, which to me is that bodes well. Sire Gaines last year didn't have that many carries, but he averaged 7 a carry, and he was likely their starting running back. So, and this week they got Braxton Feely, their defensive lineman, to withdraw from the transfer portal. I don't know if you saw that.
Which
So
is, I mean, yeah.
yeah, that's a big. I mean, Miami and Virginia Tech, and I can't remember who else was working to try and get him to join. But between him, Jaden Virgin Morgan, who had 10 sacks last year, and oh goodness, where is he? Marco Notarini, something like that. Either way, it's not, the cupboards aren't bare. Even the person stepping up to fill in Ahmed Hassani's spot on the defensive line had 3 sacks this last year. So I think and Ty Benefield, their top tackler in that Penn State game at the free safety position, is back. It's his true junior season. Like that's a program, right? Like they did a really good job keeping most of their guys out of the portal. Like again, you had a few. I think they had a wide receiver go to Southern Cal, and a handful of others. Yeah, like we mentioned, Braxton Feely did test the waters, but ultimately decided to come back. Boise is committed to being competitive and to staying competitive, and it's something that I just admire. And how can you not root for that team? So yeah, they're my pick.
Well, think about the Idaho Ranchers, and they got money too to spend too.
Yeah, I mean, and Boise's not like, there's like, again, it's not a small town. It's a pretty good. I mean, it's not a huge bustling city either, but like there's a a community around there that really that's their life is Boise. Like, and well, I mean, not just their life, but like you think about it, like why is Alabama so big in the state of Alabama? It's because they don't have professional sports teams, right? Like
Yeah.
the Crimson Tide or the Auburn Tigers are your professional sports team. Ditto for Boise State and for the greater Boise area. So and I think you've seen that they've been able to keep, actually, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars were probably thrown at him this past off season to try and get him to join a separate national title contender, and they were able to keep him. And yeah, I think that's a program that's still kind of built to last, and so I love that they're going to be able to get a crack at it again. Lots of these guys had some, got that experience, and maybe they'll be better for it again. Like you said, Maddox Madsen had a rough go of it. Playing against Abdul Carter will do that. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
under some duress.
I'm choosing Boise, but yeah, no, it's a good
We do
chat.
come down to relatively the same two teams, and it's funny because it's the American versus the Mountain West, and who can be ranked higher at the end. So
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my notes here. Where did they go? Here we are. Okay. So, anything else on that? I think that's probably a good little discussion. I'm excited to see, like who maybe surprises us, who's someone that that maybe comes out of nowhere and potentially contends for that.
yes.
Next topic. Okay, you're a prized recruit. We haven't talked about what position you can choose yours. Maybe I don't know if that informs your decision any. Maybe it does. NIL is the same everywhere. Where are you going and why? I guess you started the last one, so maybe I'll go first.
Go ahead.
So number one, always dreamed of being a quarterback. Didn't everyone, right? Like
you got to be taller than 5'10". Not necessarily, but
yeah, or crazy athletic, which no one would confuse me for that. So I like maybe I thought about this. I was like, okay, where can I go that I'm gonna get developed, that I'm gonna get, the NIL is the same. So to me, okay, if the NIL is the same, there's a couple other things I'm thinking through. Like one, where is there places with no state income tax? So I listed out those, and immediately I could like cross off like I don't want to go play in Alaska, right? Like I don't want to play in Alaska; it's cold. And then I was like, Wyoming, beautiful but pretty windy. If I'm a quarterback, I'm not sure I want to be playing against the wind. Although Josh Allen seemed to do okay, I guess. Although again, he's done much better in the pros, I think, statistically than he ever did at Wyoming. So I crossed that off my list. So states: Washington, Texas, Florida, Tennessee. I think are the others that I didn't just eliminate like right off of. So that's just states with no income tax, because I was like, all right, I want my NIL earnings, since they're the same. There is some difference in terms of like where I could go. So that limits me to certain universities. As far as pro preparedness, I mean, you're looking at a handful of schools. So Texas, obviously, if you're a quarterback right now, Steve Sarkisian, I think is probably a pretty safe bet. I would say Washington, Jed Fish. How many years did he spend on on an NFL sideline? I think it's something like 15 or something like that. So he gets you ready. In the state of Florida, I don't know if I trust anyone. I don't think I trust anyone. Tennessee is probably the same.
Billy Napier's put two in the last little bit, but he hasn't won with them. But he's put them in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I guess he's got them drafted, but even then, again, Anthony Richardson drafted because he tested like crazy, and then Graham Mertz, I still don't understand, like you said. So it's like, okay, yeah, sure, he's got them drafted, they're also, I guess I should have said, I also thought through like if the NIL is the same, let's assume it's a really healthy amount, like anywhere between $2 and $4 million a year, right? Like really, really good. Like in this hypothetical, I'm a prized recruit. So I don't know. I think I settled on, and I don't know if I like really care so much about the reason I say like I'm a prize recruit. That's the NIL. I'm assuming it's something like that per year, right? So it's like I don't actually have to go to the NFL. I probably have enough that I could theoretically retire if I manage my money right from my college earnings. So my thought process was I'm probably going in the state of Tennessee, and I'm probably going to Vandy because it's in Nashville. Um, recently checked out Nashville. Recently checked out Knoxville. They're different, right? Like one is a college town, and it shows, and it's nice. Like I didn't hate it by any stretch. It's just like there's less to do there. Nashville, bigger city. Vandy isn't. You're not necessarily the center of attention there, so you might be able to kind of fly under the radar given kind of the rest of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I get no state income tax. My property taxes are cheaper because most of the state's revenue, we looked into this because we were looking at like potentially moving there and still are considering it. But the property taxes are low because most of it is like sin taxes. There's like high taxes on alcohol sales, and they do have a sales tax and things like that. But like there's no property tax, so I could buy a nice place in Nashville, and have that appreciate, and I don't have to deal. Like that was one of the things. Like I was like, okay, Austin probably goes because the property taxes are absurd. So I think I'm going with Nashville because, and then the other part of it's like, if I crush it there, I'm a legend. Like, like I think about Alabama's awesome run from like 2009 to 2022, and sometimes I feel like some of those guys get lost in the shuffle because there's so much star power.
Yeah,
I
it's
kind
true.
of want to go to a place where it's like everyone knows my name. I told you when we went and saw Florida State play SMU, Eric Dickerson was at that game, and he is royalty there.
Yeah.
Like we walked past him underneath the stadium, and like there's this giant line of people like trying to go up and say hey and take pictures with him. Which maybe you don't like that, but like you go when you want to go. You don't have to show up at every game after
You,
after
yeah,
your career.
you put your name on a car dealership, you're golden.
Bingo. Exactly. So I went there. I mean, look what happened with Diego Pavia in this last year.
Yeah.
He's become a superstar, and so that's where I'd be like, I'm going there. I like it from a financials. I like it from the city is good. It's a nice. It's a good city. We again took a trip there, had a great time. Just avoid all the bachelorette parties and stuff. Anyway,
Or
but like
if you don't want, if that's your cup of tea.
or yeah, maybe that's your thing. Who knows? Like whatever. But yeah, that's where I landed. If everything all else is equal, that's where I'm at.
I like how you took your analysis through like financial place of living and then also being a superstar. I did it a little different. You're like, hey, also I want to maximize my bang for my buck. Me, I took it of like, how am I going to get to the NFL because that's where I can get the most money,
Fair.
and how am I going to get developed? But I also considered like I want to be a big man on campus as well. I didn't consider myself a prime recruit.
Gotcha. Okay.
But so based off of that, my first analysis was I don't care where I'm going first. Like I do care where I'm going first, but no matter what, I'm transferring at least once.
Oh,
The
interesting.
NFL has proven that they don't care about transfers, and I think for development, it helps you to be in different programs because you see different perspectives and you see like how different offenses and defenses are run, and therefore you're more prepared for when you get thrown into another one. And they're like, oh, well, I've done this before to some degree.
Hmm.
And so I think that helps you with your skill set. I think it helps you with exposure. So I think I probably end up going in a smaller program first, and then I transfer to a bigger program because then your NIL money is also increased because you probably start at the smaller school, you did phenomenal, and then you're going to go out and do pretty good at this other school. And also you become a little bit of a legend in that smaller school if you're there for a year or two. I thought about it also like as a position. If I'm a quarterback, I think I want to end up in I'm less worried about maximizing my financial money now than I am in pros, and so I think I want to end up at Louisville if I'm or a quarterback. Jeff
That's
Brom's
a good
put up
place. Yeah.
6 quarterbacks in a row in the NFL. Like
Wild.
whether they've panned out or not, whatever. Like that's up to me. But he puts people in the NFL. He's a little bit like Jimbo Fisher was. Now they all tanked Jimbo Fisher, but I think Jeff Brom has a put of view. If I'm a wide receiver, this may be the only place where I don't do that. I think I just stay at Ohio State forever because
Yeah.
I'm going to the NFL.
That one's open and shut.
If I'm an offensive lineman, I want to go like to a smaller school, G5, and then transfer or and then transfer to the SEC or start in the Big Ten for 2 years and then go to the SEC. I think there's a level, and I think it's exemplified. It's exemplified by the draft, especially when you look at offensive line, defensive line. Like offensive linemen kind of come from everywhere, but there's a level of defensive linemen that you have to play against that is a step up in the SEC than it is in the Big Ten. Even they have more people that are actually competing to win the national championship in the SEC than you do in the Big Ten, and therefore I have better chances to develop and better opportunities to get better because I'm facing tougher talent. And so this jump up to the NFL isn't that big a deal. If I'm a defensive line, it's the same lineman. It's the same thing. I want to end up in the SEC for 2 years before I go to the pros or so. If I'm a linebacker, I'm staying at Georgia. I don't care. I'm like I want to be there. Georgia's proven that they can produce linebackers that have been an exceptional hit rate. Look at the Eagles' defense just to see it. Like they're crushing it. And then if I'm a DB, that was one that was interesting to me. I'm like, do I go to Georgia or Texas to get paid potentially? Because I feel like there's no there. There used to be this argument of who's DBU, blah 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 blah. And right now, I don't feel like there is a DBU. I think the closest to a DBU right now is Georgia. They've put the most defensive backs potentially in there. I mean, they had a lockdown corner on the Eagles' defense this year. Yeah, that's maybe where I'm going. But I'm worried about development and exposure early on. Get my name out there. Be a big transfer like Cam Ward was. Be a big transfer. Like if you look at the last few drafts, who's been the number 1, 2, 3 picks across the last 3 drafts? They're transfers, big transfers. Whether they be, oh man, I'm gonna mess these all up. Caleb Williams, he didn't transfer.
He did.
Yeah, he did. Where was he at?
Oklahoma to USC.
Yeah. Okay, you have Caleb Williams, and then who's the year before that? That was
I don't know. Let me Google it.
But there's so many people that like they became big transfers. Last year you had Cam Ward, a big transfer, and then if you Jane Daniels is one that I don't know if he's the top pick, but
he was second behind Williams. Yeah.
But also a big transfer, and that's what I want to be. I want to be a big transfer and then go succeed at a really big school. My NILs gets super maxed, and then I've already been exposed to multiple programs, and I'm going to where I want to go. And that's that's where I'm not getting my best bang for my buck in college. Maybe somebody else can afford me a little bit more if I go to a bigger school, but I'm not going to have the exposure and set myself up to be successful like I would if I do that. If I have the development that I want. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting thought process because, I mean, so many players have transferred and found success where they've gone. So,
yeah, I would just if I'm a running back, I'm going to Boise State.
Why not? Right? You don't have to face the competition, and you can
that's the other part. It's like, hey, I may take some punishment, right? Like the running back position is just that's the nature of it. But I'm getting hit by guys that maybe aren't quite the same height, weight, speed that I might in other leagues. I'm gonna do okay for myself in the meantime, but I think how many NFL running backs do they put in the league?
I put a few, yeah.
I'm gonna Google that real quick. I'll come back to it, but that would be.
Yeah. Are there any other thoughts about what I've said from defensive linemen? I know you agree with me with wide receiver. It's like there or LSU.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That was the other one I was gonna say. Maybe one of those two.
But with Brian Kelly's record lately, I'm not sure I want to go there.
Yeah, it's like I mean I would probably for me, but I don't know if I'd necessarily enjoy, the time there because I'd probably be like I'm gonna get some good stats, but we're gonna lose like 4 games a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I had too much else. Like I guess you could kind of talk about like what coaches would you want to play for, and we could go by certain positions. Of course, yeah, the most obvious one being, oh gosh, what's his name? The wide receivers coach, now the offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline. Thank you. So yeah, that'd be one where it's like, all right, if I'm a receiver, I gotta go work with him. Yeah, there's, I mean, and Larry Johnson on the defensive line for Ohio State's also one that's kind of just an NFL factory. So I don't know. I don't know if I have like super strong opinions on that, but
I would have. I agree with you. I think I wanted to find people that could turn those people out. I think more often than not, it's related to talent than it is development, right?
Yeah.
And if you're already amazing, whatever, and if you need to be developed, then you want to go to somebody that's decent. The only other person I was thinking about is if we were to do this 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm going to Lincoln Riley if I'm a quarterback. Like
That's true. Yeah, it's been a minute, but I guess he had Caleb Williams 2 years ago, but it feels like some of the shine maybe's come off a little bit there.
oh, it's
But
definitely come off. I asked Chat GPT the other day, who are the or as we were getting ready for coaches that were talking about being released. I'm like, who are the coaches that have been released lately that are kind of interesting to see? And they were like, maybe Lincoln Riley this year. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
Chat GPT may know more ball than we think. Okay, so sorry, real quick to close the loop on running backs from Boise State. All right, since 2000 and let's make the cutoff 2009.
So after they became relevant.
Well, I mean, like I could go back. So they had one drafted in 2003, Brock Forsey, who I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'd say they became relevant in like 2006 when they really.
Yeah, 2007 is when they win the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. So yeah, since that point they've had Doug Martin drafted in 2011 in the first round. So that's one. Jay Ajayi drafted in the 5th round in 2015. Jeremy McNichols drafted in the 5th round in 2017. Alexander Madison drafted in the 3rd round in 2019, and then and then Ashton Jennings. So 5 in the last 20 years. Which there's probably a few that have done better than that, but that's a really good track record.
Yeah, I think Bama's probably the only place that's done better.
Yeah, I would think, but then you got to go with the Trent Richardson of it all. But
yes.
All right. Okay, cool. So this next one, where are they now, or what do you think this person is up to right now? I'll let you start. I think we kind of had. It sounded like we maybe had sort of different takes on what this meant. We probably should have communicated a little bit better. But tell me what your approach was, what you were thinking, and hit me with some facts or hit me with some updates.
Yeah, so I found some coaches that have been out of the game a little long. Maybe did some research, maybe didn't do some research. But basically, I'm going to make some snarky remarks about what they're doing, and these are coaches that had some shine on them that maybe the luster isn't there. And so just mess around. Don't take it hard feelings. Don't come at me. I'm not going to be mean. But just
lay them on me.
All right, give me Tom Herman. Right, you have from Houston to Texas to the NFL to the FAU to now he's probably on a golf course wearing a shirt that said "I beat Georgia back in 2019," and like I feel bad for Tom Herman because in reality he laid the groundwork for Texas to where it is now. Like they had great recruiting classes underneath him. He got actual talent into Texas, and they wanted to find a reason to get Archie Manning on the team, so they find any excuse to fire him. And in reality, Sark was the next step up, but I think they could have given him a little bit longer. I think you fired him right after a COVID year. Like I think he went 32-17. 32-17. And if you look at Sark's record right now, it's like 38-14. So they're relatively the same.
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone's crying for him. He's had good places to live with plenty of money, and
I imagine he's still in Boca. I don't know.
At least keep the residence, right? Like you don't have to stay there whole time, but
I think he did buy a place in Austin when he was in Texas as well, and I think he might have maintained that as well. So I mean, you go Boca.
Got a nice little real estate portfolio too.
You play some golf. You sit there and go, yeah, I was the one that we said Texas is back. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I took mine a little bit more literally, like where are they now?
Yeah,
so, sorry that I didn't understand the spirit behind the question. I had some cool. So, do you know who Rob Ezel is? Does that name ring a bell?
No, it's on my head now.
Okay, so he was, I think, a walk-on, or I don't mean to besmirch the good name of Rob Ezel. So he was a wide receiver at Bama, I think from like 2008 to 2000, like right as Saban takes over and right as they ascend, right? I don't know how much he actually played, right? Like, but he's famous, or at least somewhat famous, for his Nick Saban impression that he did.
Oh,
That went,
now that you say that, I know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
the white
yeah.
receivers in the there's
Yeah.
like
Oh, I know the air ain't got calories, man. Like, it's really good. It's really funny. If you're listening to us, just Google Rob Ezel
just Google Saban
Saban
impression.
impression. Yeah, he'll be the first result. I'm pretty sure. Um, and so he would do it, and the whole locker room's going crazy. And and Nick Saban at one point was like, "Yeah, I hear that he has a good one, but he hasn't done it around me yet."
I really would love
Anyway,
to wish they filmed him like doing that, and Nick Saban walking and just kind of
yeah, right behind him. But he is now the offensive coordinator at Wake Forest.
oh, that's cool.
He's up and coming. He was at South Alabama for a few years, and with a coaching change this past off season, with Dave Clawson retiring and Jake Dickert coming over from Washington State as the head coach, he's the offensive coordinator, up and coming. So a guy to keep an eye on. I thought that was kind of neat, and just because I don't know how much he played. Like I'm sure he contributed some. Like I think he's a special teams kind of guy. He's playing on the same team as Julio Jones, right? Like I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I'm just saying he wasn't necessarily a stat stuffer, but he's famous for that because it was so talked about at the time. But now he's the one probably getting impressions done of him in the locker room.
That's true. Yeah, that's funny. All right, I'll go next with somebody else.
Yeah, fire away.
I'm gonna go with Ed Orgeron. He's probably shirtless, sitting on the bayou, throwing shrimp po' boys at jet skiers and young "Go Tigers!" He was recently spotted at Tulane this last month, giving some speeches. Also, some other things that are kind of funny about this and where he is / whatever. I did some research, and so somebody tweeted out, said, speaking of this 100 people versus the gorilla. He says, my top 5 people, this is Peter Burns from ESPN, my top 5 people off the SEC bus if we battle a gorilla, 2006 Edward Drawn. I thought that was pretty clever. And the other thing that he's probably doing right now, he's probably looking at or getting everybody he can talk to and saying, hey, you see Bill Belichick in the life he's living? You see him getting that girlfriend? Yeah, I did it first.
Yeah.
That game plan for me.
I was worried where we were going with this because have you seen the prank call for his call-in show?
Oh, I'm not.
Okay, so what we're alluding to, for those that may not understand this, there's a famous picture of him with a very young blonde, that sort of a scandalous picture, right? But someone called into his call-in show. This is after they won the championship and things had started to taper off, right? Things weren't going as well. And someone called into his call-in show and they said, hey, before we get started, I would love for you to wish my sister a happy birthday. And he's like, oh, well, happy birthday, just being kind. And the person's like, yeah, she's turning 21 and she's blonde, so just don't sleep with her. Just whoa, we talked about prank calls that are over the line before. That one to me is fair game. That one to me is a little bit different than calling someone the day of the draft. But
I'll be honest though, looking at Bill Belichick, I feel like he is pulling his Ed Orgeron. You get fired from a place where you won national titles or Super Bowls. You go on to do something else with a girlfriend that is everybody goes, what are you doing with that person? It's kind of like, all right. And if you watch the interview with Bill Belichick, it's all over.
Yikes!
I did it first. Yeah. I swear, I did it first.
All right. I'll transition. So one of my favorite, we've kind of talked about this. We've been a little Boise centric on this podcast. I'm gonna sadly or gladly, depending on your perspective, keep that going. Dan Hawkins, head coach of Boise State, really was the one who kind of got the train rolling for Boise State to really become a program at this level. He was there for a while, went to Colorado, it didn't shake out, and then went into broadcasting. He was an ESPN commentator for college football for I think 6 or 7 years, and he's one of my favorites. I really liked him in the booth. Ended up going back to coach. He is now at Idaho State, the Vandals, in the Kibbe Dome, did I say Idaho State? Sorry,
Yeah, it's Idaho
Sorry.
are the Vandals, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I'm gonna have to double check where he's at actually. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I don't know if I typed that wrong. Oh, it's Idaho State. Yeah, so he's not the Vandals. Reverse that. Yeah, Idaho State, Pocatello, the Bengals.
Yeah.
But he's back in the game. That kind of ruined. I'm sorry. I think I read Idaho State, but thought Idaho, and I was like, man, he's in the Kibby Dome now. He's not. That was a lie, and I'm disappointed. And that one was lame, and I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good. Pocatello is like near and dear to my heart a little bit because our dad was he born there? I don't even know. Did he grow up there? I don't remember exactly, but there's a lot.
Yeah, I think he was born there and like grew up there. They moved, I think, in his teen
And so
years
like
or
we
something.
drive through when we go to Jackson Hole almost every year, and we drive through there and we stay for a few hours and do lunch and stuff like that every time we're there. And like it's a small little town. Like how it has a whole college, I have no idea, but I love that place. It's kind of cool. So anytime you bring up Pocatello, you're good in my book.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Bengals logo for Idaho State, awesome. Check out that logo at some point. It's freaking cool. I'll do my last one just real quick because I feel like I have to redeem myself after that dud. Do you remember Lance Leggett? Do you know who that is? Okay, so yeah, Miami wide receiver. I used to call him Lance Legit because in the game NCAA 07, that guy was a stone cold killer, and he probably won me at least 3 national championships. So I appreciate Lance Leggett, even though he's on the wrong side of the Florida State-Miami rivalry for my own fandom in reality. That being said, kind of a cool story. So I don't think he ever ended up being like the player many expected it. He was a 5-star wide receiver out of high school. I don't think he ever quite lived up to that billing. Like I think he had an NFL career, but it wasn't like a major one. But now he owns a brand of packaged boiled peanuts that sells in stores in the Southeast.
Dude, that's dope.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. Like I haven't been down there enough since he's been doing this to actually go buy some, but I've always wanted to because I just thought that was kind of a cool transition out of football to now. I think they're called Taste One Peanuts.
Yeah, I just found
them. You see it? Yeah, and they sell in like convenience stores and things in the Southeast.
It's funny because I've been like thinking about sending up some for everybody that doesn't know. We live out in Utah. We grew up in the South, right? We love boiled peanuts. I've been thinking about like getting a bag of just green green peanuts and send them up here and then boil them myself because I've been missing them lately for some reason. So
yeah, they're good.
All right, more mean things to say. Herm Edwards. He's probably on. He's probably sitting on an ESPN set, doing his analysis of NFL football, riding the coattails of Jaden Daniels a little bit. Be like, I figured it out first with that one, even though Jaden Daniels left him and kind of whatever. And then just hoping Kenny Dillingham can continue to repeat his success so that people will forget him at ASU. He wants them to remember him for Jaden Daniels, but nothing else. And so I don't know that whole and just completely ignoring basically what happened with him and why ASU is under sanctions.
Yeah, no, yeah, Herm Edwards.
On here, you play to get hired sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, give me Chad Morris, former SMU coach, right? Yeah, and
former Arkansas. Oh, was he SMU?
He was at SMU, and then he was also at Clemson OC, I think.
Yeah, he was Clemson's offensive coordinator. I think he was Arkansas State for like a year. Yeah, he bounced around a little bit, but yes.
I went a little bit real on him, which is kind of interesting. He's now a senior advisor to the CEO of a software company called Answers, ANSRS, and they basically do data management and video management to help coaches game plan and make in-game decisions. And he recently pulled Clemson onto that group as a client. I thought it was kind of interesting. I was going to be like, I bet you he's kind of gone into obscurity. And it was like, oh, no, he's been in the news like within the last 2 months because he's got a semi-high profile job and he's moved into the other side of football a little bit where you're helping people make decisions. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So, all right, my last mean one is Jimbo Fisher. What is Jimbo Fisher doing nowadays? We all know Jimbo Fisher likes to hunt. He likes to fish. He's got his family. He likes his peanuts in his Coke. Right now, he's probably wondering if FSU's going to call him for a reunion. They've already made 2 bad hires. Why not make a third? And he already has a house in Tallahassee. He doesn't have to move. So there's no moving expenses. Like he does have, I think he has a place over in outside of College Station as well. But I mean, why not? You already made 2 bad decisions. Go get another buyout. I know he's itching to get back in the game. He's just waiting for the right time. He did an interview, I think, in August of 24 recently, where he was talking about how he wants to get back to coaching. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to find the perfect quarterback and the wide receivers that can run an NFL system? Because you can't find that very often in college. There's a reason why they don't pan out there. So he got fortunate in Florida State, and you had NFL quarterback and NFL receivers. So I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. No, I would say that he's probably somewhere just counting all the money. I figure he just counts it like one by one, like by bills, and then when he's done, when he's got through all 70 million, he just starts over again.
Yeah, I think was it buyout 76 million?
Something like that.
If you
absurd.
Count that by like $10 a day, you can count that for the rest of your life for easy, or $100 a day. Or most of us, it's like you can count that by $1,000 a day, and you count that for the rest of your life. So, I don't know the math off my head, but yeah, dude. And also, have you looked at ever like the history of buyouts and who's the most expensive? Like he's like double the second most expensive buyout. Like
yeah, I mean it's funny because I feel like they could have got him on the cheap. They didn't, and then they renewed. Like
it's kind
before he'd really done anything. Like I think they weren't negotiating against anyone; they were negotiating against themselves. And
if anything that we've learned from at least the recent years is paying up for a coach early without them proving themselves before like 4 years. That's a dumb idea.
You want to see that it's got staying power, even if there's like projection, even if it's moving in the right direction. You got to see like, can you get to the top and can you stay there?
Yeah.
Before I'm willing to shell out for a coach now. Yeah. All right, you want to figure out if Chat GPT knows ball?
Sure, why not?
Okay, did you want to share some of yours? I also had some just that I'd written and maybe was just going to like throw in to just see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'll share some of my thought process, and you can just throw some of yours. So I went through earlier today and asked Chat GPT. I was like, "Does Chat GPT know ball? I want you to answer the following questions and see what you can do." I said, "Who will win the title this year, and who will be in the playoffs?" Number 1. Who will win the Heisman this year, and who will be there at the New York ceremony? Who is the college football GOAT at every position? Maybe we'll go through all these, maybe we don't. What team is QBU, DBU, RBU, LBU, etc.? And then and I told him basically, what did I say? Most likely to go to the NFL and produce the most picks. And then I said, who is the unlikely dark horse that can emerge this year? A team and a player, and why? Right from the get-go, ChatGPT says, "Oh, you want to see if I know ball?" My 2025 season predictions, which is kind of whatever, is Georgia Bulldogs win the championship because they have elite recruiting, elite defense, and Carson Beck comes back. And I'm like, okay. They have in their playoff Michigan.
A lot of bravado there. Oh, you want to see if I know him? Tell me about Carson Beck at Georgia. Let me tell you about him.
And then they say automatic qualifiers: Michigan from the Big Ten, possibly Georgia from the SEC, Florida State from the ACC.
No.
They have Texas and Boise State. Then they at large bigs they had was Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Ole Miss, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Washington. Okay, they're a little dated. Clearly, it hasn't quite got its analysis going on. If you went to Heisman winner, it predicted Quinn Ewers, which we all know.
7th round pick of the Dolphins.
Yeah, exactly. And the other finalists were going to be Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, Ollie Gordon, who also got drafted. So I've noticed that it doesn't quite figure out like who's not on the roster, who's on the roster, who's transferred, what the year is. And so I try to get a little bit more specific, and I try to push it a little more. I'm not going to go into all the other pieces right now. We can get into those a little bit more but the unlikely dark horse for 2025, they gave me McMillan. What's his name? Tetra.
Yeah, Titaroa.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's in the NFL too. But all right, so then I went and decided, all right, there's a deep research factor, and it takes like 25 minutes sometimes to have this deep research, and you watch it go through. It's like, oh, I've gone through 60 different resources. So I told him, like, all right, go through this, and what did I say? I told them, okay, I asked them the same questions, and they came back and says, "Do you want predictions to assume current rosters, recruiting class, and transfers as of spring 2025?" I'm like, "Yes." And then they're like, "Should I include group 5 per team?" And I'm like, "The requirements require a group 5 team for the playoffs." Yes. And then they want to go at every position. They're like, "Should we consider NFL?" I was like, "No, don't consider NFL. Just college goats." So for after 40 something minutes of painstaking whatever research it does, it comes back and says, all right, in the 12 team bracket, it has Ohio State as the Big Ten champion, Texas as the SEC champion, Clemson as the ACC champion, and Arizona State as the Big 12 champion. The group of 5 berth goes to Boise State, that they'll repeat again. And then they have at-large qualifiers for Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, and Notre Dame, LSU, and Alabama. That's who they kind of predict through this. And I think they predict Ohio State to win the championship. Yeah. They say they come up with Ohio State's championship. Then Heisman Trophy winner and finalists, they predict the Heisman Trophy will go to Arch Manning, QB of Texas, and the other quarterbacks that the other people that they bring to the Heisman list or to the ceremony are Cade Klubnik, the quarterback from Clemson, Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver out of Ohio State, and this one surprised me, and it's a little dark horse, Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. So once it did this deep analysis, it started to get okay. And that was kind of fun to see. As far as GOATs, I'll go fast and go through this. Quarterback, it picks Tommy Frazier as the GOAT for quarterback.
Not bad.
Running back, Barry Sanders. Wide receiver, Jerry Rice, who still holds the career of receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Hard to argue with that, yeah.
Yeah. Tight end, Brock Bowers. Offensive lineman, Orlando Pace. Defensive lineman, Reggie White out of Tennessee. Linebacker, Dick Butkus. Defensive back, Charles Woodson. Kicker, Sebastian Janikowski. And punter, Ray Guy. Not a bad.
Yeah.
And then when it goes into its position universities, this surprised me a little bit. QBU picks Oklahoma. They've had multiple Heismans and NFL QBs. ESPN ranks as the number 1 overall and number 1 QB according to their little thing. And they talked about how Lincoln Riley's system produces 3 picks, or produces 3 first rounders. Running back U, they picked Alabama. Basically, it's like Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris. Like it just kind of lists out all these people and also the Heisman winners. Wide receiver U, it picks out USC, referring to people like Juju Smith-Schuster, Robert Woods, and Marquise Lee. I think that's probably a miss there. I think you've got Ohio State or LSU.
You have to go back further in there. Like Marquise Lee. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, give me Dwayne Jarrett in that list. Yeah. Keyshawn Johnson is an important.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going, it sounds like it's going overall, not current. So I think you can see it. Tight end U. Who's your guess, Steve?
Miami.
Yeah, by far the top tight end producer. Miami has 10 tight ends drafted since 2000, including 5 first rounders. That's nuts. O-line U, Alabama. They've had multiple people ranked or developed in Alabama. Defensive line U. Who would you pick?
Let me think for a second. Ugh, that's tough.
Yeah, I had no idea who I'd pick.
Miami?
It picks Florida State, which surprised me. It says Florida State has had 20 defensive linemen drafted in the first 3 rounds, the most in the position U era, quote unquote. ESPN ranks, or they said ESPN ranks FSU as the number 1 defensive line. So they did some research elsewhere. Linebacker U, it picked Georgia with the likes of Raekwon, Leonard Floyd, Jarvis Jones, and it says no school has come close since 1998. Georgia has produced a cascade of NFL linebackers. Then DBU, it picks Ohio State with the likes of Jeff Oduko, Gary Conley. Just mentioning, they've had 8 first-round DBs in 7 years. They said, at one point in time, they said that. And then kicker U, which surprised me a little bit. And earlier, at one point in time, I think I went and did this a few times to see what, like, when it wasn't working very well and when it was working well. Originally, they picked kicker U at Florida State, and they picked DBU at LSU, but after it did its deep analysis, it picked Kicker U as Ohio State. Um, so the other things that it talked about were the dark horse team for 2025. This is where it messed up. I wonder if it was running out of power and just wanted to end. It says Colorado Buffs are their dark horse led by Shedeur Sanders, and I'm like, and then they mentioned Travis Hunter, so it's like, all right, maybe you didn't quite figure out like that's supposed to be going into something to the next year, but not terrible once you did the sit there for 40 minutes thing. You only get like 5 of those before a month, so it's like, all right. I don't know how much heat and what waste you talk about AI and all stuff. How much money I cost?
How much energy is
Why not?
going to that? Yeah. Okay. Here are the 3. I just plugged them in just in case I needed to refine them a little bit.
Yeah.
So I did give it a little bit of feedback.
And sorry, I ramble a lot, but I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of see, like, if nothing else, it's like the part of my brain that's like, oh, that worked at a tech company. It's like, clearly it doesn't understand like when information is out of date and how to kind of disregard anything that comes from that. The first one I asked, I said, set a hypothetical spread for Clemson versus Miami on a neutral field in football in 2025.
Let me guess this off my top of my head. My hypothetical spread on a neutral field. Ooh, I'd say 5 and I'd say 4.5 to Clemson.
Yeah, so it's funny because they say historical performance in a 2024 game, which they did not play. It says that Clemson was favored by 4.5 points. And that part is just not actually true.
I love giving responses to Chat GPT with thumbs down. Bad response.
Yeah, but it did, like, again, it said a hypothetical spread for 2025 is Clemson minus 7.5 on a neutral field. It seems I'm taking that. Like,
you taking Miami?
I take a Miami plus 7.5. Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, if I was setting what I expect, I think Clemson would win by 7. I think Clemson's going to be that much better than Miami is.
I can see him winning by a touchdown. But it's the hook that to me is like,
half. Yeah.
I feel like that might be the problem. But it says the spread accounts for Clemson's historical performance. And it says Miami's rebuilding phase, which I don't know if that's entirely true, but like they did lose a fair amount off that team, but they returned essentially the entire offensive line. There's a lot coming back too. Neutral site considerations, like it says, it removes the home field advantage, but Clemson would still likely be the favorite. So I was just kind of curious on that one. I did ask it. I said, you have your choice of Big 12 quarterbacks to start on your team. Who are you choosing to start and why? It first came back with Shedeur Sanders, so I had to remind it, hey, this is for 2025. Shedeur is in the NFL. So then it came back. It just said, here are the top 12 the top returning ones. It came out with Sam Levitt as its number 1, which, okay, hard to argue against that. Yeah. But it did qualify. It said like 25 football seasons yet to begin. Rosters and depth charts are still subject to change. So it's like, oh, well, now we're picking up that things do change kind of dynamically. But it said Sam Levitt, then Avery Johnson, then Josh Hoover, then Sawyer Robertson, which I think Sawyer Robertson's low there. I rewatched BYU and Baylor, and like BYU wins that game. They jump all over him to start that game. My goodness, that guy has he has a cannon. Like, my goodness, he has a pretty special arm. So again, I need to do a little bit more research around like who's around him, but Sawyer Robertson's a pretty good player. And then number 5 was Jake Retzlaff, the BYU quarterback. So mixed bag there. And here I think was the most fun that I did. I said, here's my prompt.
Real quick. Oh. On those top 5, like I think those are pretty good top 5. If I was going to pick a top 5, I think those probably would be who I'd pick.
Yeah, my order is like Avery Johnson. I think is at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, I mean it's a matter of what step he takes.
I think I go Levitt, Robertson, Hoover, Retzlaff, Johnson.
Yeah.
So I see it kind of played out a little bit differently, but yeah, I don't think that anyone's necessarily missing. Baron Morton at Texas Tech may have something to say about it when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So that'd be the one I'd say like he potentially is missing. But outside of that, I think it looks good. I mean, Devin Dampier at Utah, I think could potentially be pretty special as well. But I'm kind of giving it a pass. Maybe they don't realize that he's transferred in there because these are all returning quarterbacks that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
All right. Was there more on that or?
No, I was agreeing with you. I think Devin Dampier is, when it's all said and done, cracks that top 5, depending on how that offense does. Yeah.
Probably. They have what I think 4 or 5 returning starting linemen. Utah's offense is gonna. It was awful this last year. It's going to be a lot better this year. It'll be interesting to see what balances out between the offensive improvement and then I think the defense will slide back some because they just lost a lot of guys.
Yeah, to BYU.
Just the one defensive guy.
I know, but he's a projected first rounder for some people.
Yeah, pretty good player. All right, so here's my final prompt that I threw at Chat GPT. I said, you're a college football offensive coordinator recruiting a high school football player. Your university is not a traditional power, but has been in the top 3 of your conference in the last 3 years. Deliver your recruiting pitch comparing your school and the opportunity to play for you and why that player should consider you instead of going to the university that most recently won the national championship. Without any feedback, like it immediately just gave this here. It's like, hey, insert player's name. Let me level with you. I know you're hearing from some of the biggest names in college football right now, including the school that just hoisted the national championship trophy. That's impressive. Let me tell you why choosing us could be the best decision you ever make. We're building something here. Not riding the wave of tradition, but creating our own legacy. Over the last 3 years, we finished top 3 in our conference. That's not by accident. That's because of hungry players like you and a staff that believes in innovation, opportunity, and development. At our university, you're not just another name on a roster full of 4 and 5 stars. Here, you're a cornerstone. You're someone we want to build around, not just someone to plug into a system. I don't want you waiting 2 years behind some guy just because he was here first. I want you on the field. I want you leading. Our offense is tailored to players like you, dynamic, fast, and fearless. We adapt to our talent, not the other way around. You'll be working in a system that's built to get you noticed, not just by fans, but by scouts on Sundays. You want development? We've had players in your shoes and all conference honors, break school records, and get a real shot at the next level. The national champs, they've had their moment. Here, you can help create it. You can be the one that turns heads and makes people say, how did they land him? And when we knock off those so-called blue bloods, and trust me, we will, your fingerprints will be all over it. So ask yourself, do you want to be a part of someone else's story, or do you want to come here and write your own? Let's build something special together.
So maybe Chat GPT doesn't know ball, but it knows sales.
yeah, exactly. It's probably what it is. Like, I was like, hey man, like I'm sold. I'm ready to run through a wall for Chat GPT. Like, okay, like.
Steve's like, Chat GPT, here I come.
Yeah, not a bad pitch for like giving it not a ton of information.
I think it also hits what you value, which would be like being a big name, whatever else. And there are other people that value like get me paid, or get me
like the name will come. That part would happen, but yeah, no, it's I don't know. I just figured I'd throw out something different.
No, I love that. Dude, if you don't play with Chat GPT, play with it. It's fun. Also, there's the ability to create your own Chat GPTs off of it. I haven't done that as much, but like there's some cool stuff with there. In reality, we should teach it just like how to keep up with all the football world that goes on, because in reality I feel like it's like the airplane traffic, and there's planes going all over the place sometimes, and they're mid traffic sometimes, and they're landed sometimes, and you don't really know if they're on time or not on time, and it's a hard world to keep up with nowadays.
Yeah, no kidding. Anything else you got for this episode?
We're Florida State fans. Maybe we talk about a little bit what's going on at Florida State.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to start? No, go for it.
Oh, just like you have a linebacker out of Thomas. Like, okay, let's start over. For people that don't know, I feel like the FSU reporting staff, at the local reporting staff, and also the people like
you're talking like beat writers and,
the beat
people
writers,
cover.
like,
yeah,
you're looking at like War Chant, you're looking at like the Tallahassee Democrat, you're looking at whatever else, 247, etc. On 3. these guys tend to be or Florida State fans. They tend to be part of the program. They tend to be a little bit more favorable, and it's like there recently was within the last 2 weeks there was a recruit out of Thomasville, who's a linebacker who is I don't know, 4-star for sure, but a highly regarded recruit who committed to Cal. Is that right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, committed to Cal. And then also this week you had a tight end. I don't know if you guys know who Marquise Douglas is. Biscuit, if you haven't heard. He played for Florida State 3 years ago, 2 years ago. 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Last year played for Arizona State. He's back on Florida State's roster. And then decides after spring ball that he's going to transfer out. And then there's an argument. Like I'm not privy to all the details, right? I don't have any inside information, but from what I can tell, he basically threatens to leave unless he gets paid more. And now he's back on the roster, and he had like a visit to North Carolina lined up, from what I understand. And watching the local media, watching the beat writers starting to turn on Mike Norvell has been hardcore this week. It's like you clearly are not valuing high school recruiting. You're letting people out of your own backyard that are gone. Like, you need to start working on this. This is a kid that's going to Cal, has wanted to go to Florida State his entire life, and you can't get him to go from there. And that's from Charlie Ward's.
Yeah, it's like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, maybe an hour.
Yeah. And like, but there's nothing else near there. Let's be real. Like, Thomasville is not a big city. And you should be getting all those recruits. Anybody in Southern Georgia, they should be coming to you. Essentially, I mean, I know that NIL is going to be different. Well, you should be trying to get those and locking them down. But apparently, Cal just made him a priority. And this recruiting class, the recruiting of Mike Norvell's staff doesn't value high school recruits. They don't want to go get the high school recruits right now. At least that's how it appears. They want to go get transfers and take people that are on the edge and push them over the edge, rather than actually go get recruits that will stay with them for multiple years. Whereas if you look at who the teams that have been successful and won championships, they have gone and got valued high school recruiting, and they've kept those high school recruits, and they've got the top high school recruits too, and let them make differences in their system and to be successful. We can talk about Jeremiah Smith, for example. We can talk about Arch Manning, potentially, for example. We can talk about who won the national title last year. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Ohio State.
No, 2 years ago, I meant. Sorry.
Michigan.
Thank you. Michigan has gone out and valued players. And you got Bryce Underwood coming in this year. Like, that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, these are people trying to say, hey, we're going to get freshmen and we're going to pay them a decent amount and they're going to come over. And Florida State lost a number of players to Michigan in recruiting in the last few years. There's some frustration from the beat writers that Florida State doesn't value recruiting, doesn't value high school recruiting, and then even when they're doing evaluations on players, they're not hitting very well. And then on top of that, you're getting held hostage by your players. You've seen this with Josh Farmer. You've seen this with
Pat Payton.
Yeah, Patrick Payton. You've seen now this with Marquise Douglas. And I don't know with Bud Ingram. Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean to Bud Ingram, but he runs the NIL collective that has the most influence on Florida State. Like, I'm not sure what you guys are doing, allowing these players to try and hold you hostage when you have a team of backups. To be frank, you don't have a team that's going to compete for the ACC. If you do compete for the ACC, I am an idiot and whatever else. But you, talent-wise, should not be on there.
No.
No. The expectation of that you should be there is at Tallahassee. Like, people expect you to win. They expect you to do well. I understand you were great with Travis, and you figured out that system. But other than Travis, you haven't done anything. And that's starting to boil over. Anything else to say, Steve?
No. Yeah. You ever see the Pony Excess 30 for 30?
Yes.
Okay. Brent Musburger is one of the people in that documentary, and he says, people covering programs from afar, like the national media, we don't have the same sway. When the local media turns on you, you're finished. That's the exact quote. I looked it up the other day. And yeah, it's usually the beginning of the end. So I think that's, you hit on a couple of sort of microcosms of what I think are, like you said, are there these small examples that speak to a bigger issue and a problem at Florida State. So I think I said this a while back, I think, But yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better for Florida State, I think.
Yeah, and you hire Gus Malzahn, which, no offense, I don't think is a good hire.
We hated it. We hated it from day one, and I think we're still right, and we'll take as many victory laps as he gives us this year.
Now, how many games? What I don't know what Norvell's buyout is. Off the top of my
It's a
head.
lot. I can't remember. It's a lot. You signed him up, and it immediately became an anchor. Like,
Yeah, do you go one more year and you're like, all right, we're gonna go one more year and then we can fire him in the next year potentially, or do you like if you win 8 games this year, I think people are okay with where you are.
yeah,
If
I
you
think
win
you have to
7,
win 8. If you win 7,
I think
and things don't change, like from the sort of the behind the scenes things, it could get dicey.
yeah, I think if you win 7, you're like people are like, oh, I'm not happy. I can deal with it. Whatever. If you win 8, people are like, all right, maybe we were wrong. But if you win anything less than that, you're gonna have a problem. I know you were 2-10, but you should have been 2-10, and you shouldn't be losing that over half the ACC.
Yeah, not in your 5th year, not in your 6th year. That just shouldn't happen.
No.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I don't feel good about it at all. I don't feel. I don't get the warm and fuzzies, and it's one of those things where it's like you can't afford to be bad at football right now. It's really important to be good at football when other conferences have the potential to come calling. You're like,
Exactly.
you got to be good. Um, I don't feel good about it, and it's funny because like I've been a big Norvell fan. Like when he was hired, frankly, actually even before he was hired, I was a little surprised no one had taken a shot on him because he had great offenses at Arizona State, did good things at Memphis, and was there I think 2 or 3 years. I think he had 2 10-win seasons over the course of 3 years at Memphis. So I was a little surprised that first one didn't get him a lot of job consideration, and then Florida State happened to open. When it did, and that happened to be like the year that he took Penn State or took them to the Orange Bowl against Penn State. Yeah.
Does it feel a little Jimbo-esque? Because Jimbo put everything together and then he couldn't fix things and then it collapsed. Right? You had friction within you had friction within the coaches and the style. You had a lack of caring about recruiting for a little while, and coaches weren't recycled that weren't good. If you go to Norvell issue, you addressed a lot of issues. You helped out getting in the portal. You went and got things. You have pushed out some of the coaches that you haven't wanted, but you haven't been able to upgrade as well as you need to on some of those coaches. You need to be shelling out for better coaches, and you also clearly don't value recruiting within those coaches. I think the only coach that you've gone out and got and like, oh, this guy probably can recruit, maybe also he can develop, is I think the defensive backs coach.
Yeah. It's a problem. So yeah, I don't feel good about like the long term sort of what Mike Norvell's tenure at Florida State looks like in 3 years is probably non-existent. Probably isn't there. So it feels like to me it's a question of when, not if, they make a change. And I'm already trying to be like, okay, who's my short list of who would you consider?
Let's say you're Mike Norvell. What do you do to change immediately? What do you do?
I mean, right now the bad part is like I don't know if there's much that I can change immediately that will change things this off season or like I mean obviously you could say, hey guys, we got to start recruit. We have to get out, go see prospects, go develop a recruiting board. Like that part to me is like, again, I've never spent any time in a college staff, but it's pretty simple to be like, okay, I have these needs at my position. I'm the position coach. All right. I know which guys are on my roster and I know what they can do, right? Or at least I have a pretty good sense of what they're capable of because I see them in practice all the time. So it's like, okay, these 3 guys are really solid. They're good contributors. This guy's young, but he's up and coming. These 2 or 3 guys maybe weren't what we thought they were out of high school. Okay, so we need to find players that can replace them on our roster. All right, who are the guys that have both the physical traits, like have the measurables, that have the measurables in terms of like length, speed, anything that they've done from like a camp to go get like officially measured, and which ones are kind of roughly in my area of the country, and then gauge interest, right? Like this doesn't seem like this is that complicated. Now, obviously getting them on campus, that's the hard part, right? That part I would say is very difficult. Like getting them on campus, I mean, closing the deal, right? Like signing them. But beyond that, like it's just developing a board, talking to people, and the fact that the one that to me was the most glaring is you mentioned it with like a guy 45 minutes away from maybe an hour away from your campus who's grown up a Florida State fan who wants to be there, who people in that area have said like all they are knocking down Florida State's door to get him, and you can't like you're acting like he's not worth your time is wild to me. Like that's like what
Yeah,
are we doing here? Like
like so if I'm Norvell, rewind 3 months, 4 months. There's things that I feel like you had to go get new staff. Like you had to, based off of what people's reaction were, and to save your own job, you had to go get new staff. But I don't think I go. I think what you number one you need to do is get a new offensive lines coach. Like Atkins was a good recruit. He wasn't as good a developer as you needed him to be. I don't think you go like I don't have a problem with Norvell calling the plays. I still didn't have a problem with it. I think you're going to have a worse team with Malzahn calling the plays. To be frank, um, I fire my wide receivers coach and I go get a new wide receivers coach. I move my defensive line coach off of being defensive line coach, which he did, and then I probably fire my DC and I for sure fire my linebackers coach, and I go get new people. So, granted, I don't know if is it Jason White,
it's Tony.
Tony White. Sorry, I don't know if Tony White's my first pick, but he might be the best thing I can get. I don't know if I really want to go to a 3-3-6, but I think I'd probably want to say in 4-2 or 4-3. But that's fine. You go get, but I go get coaches that can develop the line. But I also more importantly, I go get coaches that are going to close the deal. And like you still haven't got, like you haven't gotten those coaches. And this may be another microcosm of where Norvell was people thought Florida State was kind of tanking and struggling, and so when he tried to replace coaches, he couldn't replace coaches. And then all of a sudden he got great, and so he kept all the same coaches. And in reality, you should have gotten rid of coaches when you became great to continue it. Now, when you had a down year, people don't want to come back in because they're not going to have a job.
Yeah,
and so like it's matters of constantly evaluating, constantly of figuring out what you need to do. And from as far as players go, he did a little bit this spring. You saw him get a little bit more ruthless. Like, you're not going to play for us, you're going to go. And it got a little bit more ruthless, but it should be like, all right, we're bringing in new talent, we're bringing in new players, and we're going to find players that can play and are going to play. And how you can't get Hakeem Williams the ball, like, I don't care if that kid is not figuring out. You hand the ball off to that kid and let him go to the races. I mean, I think of Carlos Williams. Like, when you have an athlete on your team, you find a way to get them the ball, and you find a way to get them on the field, no matter what, no matter how good or how bad they are at running a route or whatever else. And they're not doing that stuff. There's a lot of pieces that are just not happening well. I'm a chair coach, though, so.
Yeah. But, no, I don't disagree with it. This has been a good little therapy sesh, so thank you. Because, it doesn't look good. I don't feel confident in that team going forward, at least not as it's currently constructed. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. I think this gets worse before it gets better. I'm already coming up with like a short list. Like,
you think you have another 2-10 season? Or 2-8 season?
No, okay, all right. I'm just saying that there's more bad that you're going to get through, and I don't know. I feel reasonably confident that your best days, Mike Norvell, are behind you.
Yeah, it's funny because when Mike Norvell got hired, I ran into a guy out here. He saw me on a Florida State tour, and he's like, "Oh man, we should have got Dion." And I was like, "Dude, no, Dion was a mistake. Norvell was the right way to go." I might have to just eat a bunch of crow, to be frank.
Wait till you see Colorado this year. Like, I don't know if I buy that, but
let's say Dion brought the talent, like, because you would have gotten Travis Hunter, you would have had Shador, you would have had I do think, like,
you probably would have got a few more guys too. Frankly, yeah. Like it's easier than saying, "Hey, come all the way out west, and we got to build this thing right from the ground up." Like,
now, would you have had you would have competed in the ACC, and you probably would have won. You might have won the ACC. You might not have found Jordan Travis, which honestly, like, people sitting there saying if Jordan Travis was on there, Florida State would have won the title. They would have had a shot for sure. But I don't know. I think Colorado is sitting on better footing and better trajectory than Florida State is right now. To be frank, I don't think they're expected to win 10 games, but I think they're.
Yeah, it's really close. Like if you put those two teams right now on the same field, yeah, I mean, I think Florida State might even win that game still. Like I'm not bullish on Colorado this year. I think they really fall. So
Even
like
with Julian Williams or Julian Lewis or whatever.
yeah, with him or Caden Salter, I don't think it matters. The wide receiver core got decimated. Like they had three guys drafted,
Yeah,
including I'm counting Travis Hunter in that, but him, LeJontay Wester, and
yeah.
Sam Horn. Sam Horn? Somebody Horn.
I can't
Not
think of
Sam
it.
Horn. Sam Horn's a QB recruit for someone else. The
Yeah, it doesn't.
former USF player. Can't remember his first name. Last name is Horn. Jimmy Horn.
Yeah, Jimmy Horn Jr. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they had three NFL wide receivers leave, a NFL quarterback, and the Heisman Trophy winner, of course, is one of those receivers, but also played defense at a really high level. So I think if you were to play that game again, home team's probably favored in both of those, right? Like if you played it in Colorado, I'd probably favor
Probably. Yeah.
Colorado, but they're pretty close, right? But yes, spinning it forward, I think yes, they're on better ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still wouldn't have Dion on my on my list of like I don't want him to be the next coach at
I
FSU.
don't think I would either, but I think it's like, whoa, that's surprising that would have been a better hire. Now, spinning it forward, what is your list?
Ooh, um, if it happens this off season, things get interesting. I'd be very curious. Like here's one. Like we need to just clip this by itself, kind of out of this context.
Yeah.
Manny Diaz is going to line himself up for a new big time job. Like
You talking about the Duke as Duke head
yeah, the
coach?
Duke head coach. He's former Miami head coach, defensive coordinator at a couple of
Washington,
different
Penn
stuff.
State, yeah.
The Penn State was obviously, I think, his best stop, but like he was defensive coordinator at Texas. He was defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. He bounced around a little bit. He's had, I think he got fired from Texas. Obviously, got fired from Miami as the head coach there. But like, good
But in
defensive
reality,
mind.
he wasn't the problem at Miami. They just wanted a reason to get Cristobal, to be frank.
See, I don't know if I totally buy that. I mean, come on, they lost to. I mean, they lost to what FIU while he was the head coach. I mean, his record and Mario Cristobal's record through two seasons, I think, was pretty similar, and neither one of them had great starts, right? But he was. I do think they were on kind of this path to potentially,
Yeah.
kind of get escape velocity to a certain degree. But he's not the recruiter that Mario is
No,
by any stretch. So I don't know exactly what the ultimate ceiling would have been for him, but I mean, he's really been able to rehab his image. Had a great year, his first year at Duke. I think Duke is poised to keep that going.
yes, I agree.
So I think Manny Diaz is one of them. I'm not saying he's my top choice. He's up there.
And he's coached at Florida State before. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
junior.
he's an alum. He's an alum. So he's one that I would strongly consider. Let's go for a couple of others. I think you might have to give John Summerall at Tulane a call and just gauge interest.
Yeah, you do.
So you have to ask that. That one's one that he's on my short list of people to talk to. As far as other sitting head coaches that I think you could really get, I'm not entirely sure.
Could you go get Cincinnati? I mean, it seems a little weird because
Oh,
he's northern a little bit, but like,
but he was on He was on Nick Saban's first staff at Alabama.
yeah,
Like he was there for 2 years and he was the recruiting coordinator. So like he's got the chops. I wouldn't say no. I'd be good with that one. The other one that
think
I
he just got
have
a
kind of
huge contract.
what
He's getting paid $8 million a year.
yeah. So that one might be a tough pull. The other one I think is like if it's after this year, I'm not sure you could go ahead and do this and roll the dice on a young and up and comer. But have you paid attention to what Brandon Marin's doing at Sacramento State?
Yeah, that's the other one I was thinking about.
He's going. I told you we like earlier the offseason. Like that man is going to win a national championship as a head coach. I am quite confident. Just he's working his way up. I wonder if it might be a little too early in his career, but that guy would immediately flip your roster, and recruiting would not be a problem.
No.
And So that would be one that I would consider. You couldn't get him, but I might call Kenny Dillingham and ask him. Just
You don't think you can get him? Oh yeah, he's at Arizona State.
no, he's going to be there for 20 years and ride off into the sunset. I mean, assuming everything goes well, but things appear to be trending in the right direction for that program.
You need to go get somebody that values recruiting and is a recruiter.
Yeah, I think that's got to be one of the top things. So, and I would say Dillingham fits that. Marion fits that.
Dillingham is a player's coach. Did you hear what he did this last week or this spring?
No.
So with the rules now, you're allowed 105 players on the roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to cut that until the week before the season starts. And he basically he said this spring, he goes, we let everybody who knew we basically cut our roster down to 105. He said, if you're gonna have a spot on a team, we're gonna let you know now, because now you have a chance to transfer out and go find a spot. I'm not gonna cut you the week before. And he's been like that all the time. He's like, you want to when he pay our players, he's very much like this is how it is. It's real. It's what I think people don't understand is sometimes it's like when you are serving and you're concerned about like what's best for you and not what's best for also those around you, it ends up biting you in the butt because it's a short-term view. But when you look about and you try to care about what's good for everybody around you, then it ends up really serving you a lot. Like, for instance, at one of my jobs, I had a guy who I got hired with at the exact same time, and I ended up being made the boss over him. And he was pretty annoyed by the fact that I got made boss over him. I was like, hey, I know you want to get promoted. I know you want to have like I was worried about because he was a person on my team, and it was like I worried about a little bit of tension and him kind of being frustrated and not having our team being as successful as we were. I said, hey, I know you want to be promoted, and this is what I see as your strengths, and this is what I see as your weaknesses. And I've talked to my bosses, who are the ones that determined that I got hired, and they also view these as your strengths and your weaknesses. So you need to be concerned about these weaknesses and pin them up. And once you start pinning them up, I'm going to go advocate for you for a raise, and then I'm going to advocate for you to be in the next in line to get promoted. And because I cared about him and what was involved with him, all of a sudden he galvanized the whole team and pulled them all together. And he was one of my best pushers because he was. If I had a comment or I had something to say, he knew I was going to be like going to have his back as well, so he'd have my back. And that's what this is what Dillingham's doing. He's essentially saying, I have the players' backs. And when push comes to shove, players see that, they're going to want to come play for me.
Yeah.
A long way of saying it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, I think that's one of those things. So like that would be a short list of people that I'd be like, all right, I'd consider these, but I still am just starting to compile that. Like, who else might be a good fit? But yeah, those are the things you got to prioritize at this point.
Dude, it's just getting ridiculous. So I don't know. You got to find someone that's going to get you into the Big Ten too.
Yep. Yeah, either or.
Anyways, way to end it on a downer note.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer ending, but whatever. It is what it is. If you made it through all that, I know we went deep in the weeds there on FSU for the last little bit, but thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. Yeah, probably once a month from now until kind of the lead up. We'll do some preview stuff a little bit more, but
yeah, I'm ready for media
thanks.
days and for us to make predictions on who's going to win.
Oh my gosh, yeah, win totals. And yeah, I know 4 months to the day away from that first real Saturday. So awesome, man. Well, thanks. We'll see ya.